What is up, bros? Josh here. Today's video is all about the Tier 7 German premium battleship, the Scharnhorst, and is it worth it? Now, if you just want to know if it's worth it, yes, it is. This is one of the best ships you could ever pick up as a premium ship. It's one of the most fun ships you could ever pick up as a premium ship. And someday I'll do a top 5 video, and this will be #1 for best premium you could ever pick up. So if you just want to know if it's worth it, yes, it is. But if you want to go into a bit more in depth, show some gameplay on why, let's get into the rest of the video. Now, the Scharnhorst not only is a Tier 7 premium, which allows you to have some of the best matchmaking in this game, it lies in a weird anomaly that is Tier 7 battleships, where a lot of the premium ships really aren't, well, the premium battleships really aren't even that good compared to the tech tree ships. You tend to think of premium ships being better than their tech tree counterparts. Tier 7 has some weird ones for sure. Now, we've seen recent ones like the Ashitaka getting buffed, and the Ashitaka is really good now, but I wouldn't really consider the Ashitaka even better than the Nagato still. Stuff like the King George and the Duke of York. The Duke of York is seriously just a worse version of the King George. The Nelson, this is up to the player. I don't find the Nelson extremely good. Yes, it has the super heal, but if you are in anything that has a decent caliber shell, you'll punch the Nelson through the nose and it'll get Citadel all day. Again, a playstyle preference. And with the Hood, I think the Hood, although I am team Hood, I find this ship kind of fun to play. I find it unique. I think this would end up being a really good ship, kind of like the Nelson, for them to sell for free XP. But I wouldn't consider the Hood something that I would ever spend really money on unless you're an historical collector. But really, at Tier 7, you get a lot of ships that are really good, but they're really good in the tech tree. Stuff like the Colorado, yet slow, can still absolutely slam with its big caliber shells. Same with the Nagato, which is going to get a buff soon. And like the Lion, the King George, basically all the tech tree ships are pretty solid. Now, throughout this video, we will compare the Scharnhorst to its Tier 7 counterpart, the Gneisenau. But the Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst, kind of the same body, but different punishing power. And the Scharnhorst kind of brings a good part of what the Gneisenau tends to really have, kind of maddening shell, with the Scharnhorst bringing more small caliber shells and the Gneisenau bringing fewer bigger caliber shells. Now at Tier 7, the Scharnhorst spots 56,300 HP, and that is pretty damn competitive at this tier. It would be considered even on the higher end for most of these ships, and it does really well, and it has that German armor, so you're not really going to be getting Citadel that much, so that's really nice, but you do take those high alpha damage hits, but you can basically give up a broadside without really getting Citadeled. Main armament. Now, this really sets the Scharnhorst apart from everything else at this tier and basically all battleships. This kind of has the quote-unquote battle cruiser style guns, which are the smaller caliber. You've seen similar guns on the Graf Spee at Tier 6, the Tier 6 premium cruiser. But the Scharnhorst has 3, 3, 3, 2 in the front, 1 in the back, of 280 millimeter shells. So what does that mean? Well, with the 20-second reload, it means you are going to be the fear of all cruisers at this tier. If they give you a broadside, you can blap them and blap them often, but the downside of these shells are that they are not going to be able to punish battleships as much as, let's say, like the Nagato, the Colorado, or even the Gneisenau, because of their bigger shells. So upside, faster firing, but lower overall damage on stuff with bigger armor. But what does that mean? It means this thing is also fantastic at shooting both ammo types, which normally in a battleship, you'll get flagged and get yelled at in chat for shooting HE when you're in a battleship. This one kind of almost promotes using both ammos and really kind of, I would say, requires a bit of a skill gap, you know, some knowledge of how the shells work, both using AP and HE, but it's a great trainer regardless. As you see, though, the overall max shell damage, so your Citadels will do less damage. Obviously, that's dependent on the caliber of shell, but that rate of fire kind of makes up for it overall about having an actually very high DPM. Secondaries, one of the best parts about this ship is, we'll get over it through in this little bit right here, is you can run this thing with basically any type of captain you want. Now, most captains are, well, okay, you're going to run like a standard concealment expert captain, are you going to run a secondary captain, or run an AA captain? The Scharnhorst can run basically anything, so if you prefer being just a balanced overall captain, want to run concealment, sure. If you want to go full secondaries, you can do that as well. And if you want to be like me and be Trollolo in the Tier 7 matchmaking and go full AA and ruin CV's days, that's what I love to do. So you will end up getting an insanely high AA rating, but you can run whatever you prefer. And if you even spec it out, I think you can even get out to like 7.2, 7.4, somewhere around there with fully maxed out secondaries. So if you like getting in for those brawling situations, the Scharnhorst is fast and can get you into those all the time. Of course, with really good matchmaking as well. It does have torpedoes, 2 sets of 3, so you have those chances to go in there and then make battleships cry by pushing in, and they can do nothing about it. So what you lack in punching power in your main battery guns against battleships, you do have that chance to light them on fire, force repair, and put a torpedo into them and make them flood out and watch them be rage and chat. AA, now as you can see, this is obviously boosted way, well, really high because of my captain and because of the modules. I'll show you my modules right now. Obviously, it's only tier 7, so there's only 4 slots. Main armament mod 1, we're going to lower our fire chance and flood chance, which is good. It's getting lit on fire and flooding. AA, we're boosting that. Obviously, you could pick something else to be a bit more, if you want to go a bit more balanced. Aiming system mod 1 is fantastic. If you want to go secondaries, boost those out, you can do that as well. And then steering gears for this last one. Of course, running premium consumables on these. But AA, you can buff it to basically like a landed level almost, with 139 DPS at 6.5 kilometers. Pretty much if a Ryujo, Hot Hiryu, anything like that gets really close, you're going to get damn near clear sky, and you'll see that in some gameplay. Now let's dive over to some actual gameplay and show what the Scharnhorst can do, and just show how balanced of a ship this can be, and just overall how fun this ship can be. So here we are in game with the Scharnhorst, and as you can see, we even got blessed with having a CV against us. That's always the best, these mid tiers. And what I always say, I always kind of talk about how awesome the matchmaking at tier 7 is, and not only do you get good matchmaking, you get good maps. So that is another boost to how I think tier 7 premiums are. And the best part is, obviously, if you want the best kind of trainer when it comes to this this game, you're going to make the most credits, the most credits, the most damage, the most XP with the higher the tier is, of course. So if you can get tier 9 premiums, that's obviously they're going to do the best. But tier 8s in the store will obviously get you more. But tier 7 is in this really sweet spot. And the reason being is a lot of tier 7 tends to do really well in the +-2 matchmaking. Tier 7s tend to be extremely solid against tier 5s, almost having a I wouldn't quite say an unfair advantage, but that gap tends to be some of the highest in this game. And what I mean by that is a tier 7 is so much stronger than a tier 5 in almost every situation than you'll see in a lot of other ones. Even tier 6 to tier 8s, there is definitely a gap there, but I wouldn't consider it as big as tier 7 to tier 5. Tier 5 is really still in those extremely old style ships, extremely slow, and as you see, we're already planking a plane or two out of the sky, which is really good. And the best part about it is you get these really good maps. They're super small compared to everything. You don't have to deal with the tier 8 matchmaking that'll give you the biggest maps. And so tier 7 is kind of this, I don't know, this little treasure trove of World of Warships, being not only good for matchmaking, really good maps, and then having a really good advantage if you get top tier. Even being bottom tier in the Scharnhorst, it still does pretty well. You will obviously have to play, being bottom tier, you'll have obviously play a bit slower, but you can still do damage. You might end up being a bit more of HE when it comes to it, but still, you'll be able to hold your own compared to it. So, playstyle of the Scharnhorst, basically shoot heavy and shoot often, and what you're going to try to do is just try to do as much damage as you can. What I like to do is get into situations where I can effectively push. That's with anything you want that you have a torpedo kind of battleship. So when you're looking at something like the Scharnhorst or Gneisenau, Tirpitz, you're looking for that position where you can get those torpedoes to start working, and just getting that standard, that static passive damage of those secondaries as well. Now, these aren't going to be the secondary ranges that you're used to for the tier 8 battleships. Again, if you're looking for a nice little trainer, if you've ever played the Bismarck or something like that, or even the French battleships, they're not going to be that 10-12 kilometer range secondaries. These ones are going to be a tad shorter. As you see, it's AP versus HE. That Scharnhorst is shooting HE, which is fine. I still consider Scharnhorst a battleship, so I will continue to use AP as the primary ammo. But yeah, if you've ever played, let's say, some of the German battleships or the French battleships, where they tend to be a bit longer secondaries, these ones not so much. You'll get that mid 7 kilometer range, which will still be really effective, but you do have to get closer. So I wouldn't call them almost YOLO secondaries, but you still will have to get a lot closer than just kind of those longer range ones, if you kind of get what I mean. Luckily, what you'll do is most likely you're going to kind of be, I wouldn't say a sniper when it comes to the ship, but with that reload, you will be doing it as fast as possible. And it's always a bummer when my div mate went down really early. It was kind of funny. I think that was one of his last games of the night. But as you see, anytime planes get close to me, this is why I love this build. You trade concealment basically for extremely high AA. Anytime these planes getting close to me, you just obliterate them. So even just at max range, yeah, that's kind of funny. We're still flicking them out of the sky. So again, trying to find situations to push and get aggressive on this, but not obviously YOLOing, throwing away our ship, because this is such a good ship and can really kind of control a game. It's also a fast ship, so I love that in battleships, and that's one of the downsides of whenever people ask me about which lines to play, especially when it comes to battleships. I don't find the German line to be the best trainer, but I find like something like the Japanese line to be a great trainer for brand new battleships because of they're relatively quick. So I think that's one thing that really kind of rubs a lot of people the wrong way with some of the battleships is, or they'll say, I like battleships, but they're so slow. And this is why the Scharnhorst is so much fun. It's always awesome to find a premium that, one, brings a unique play style, and two, is fun to play. That's Scharnhorst and Scharnhorst. Again, even just comparing the ships at this tier, and there's a nice little Citadel right there. Again, the Citadel, you will be able to punish cruisers when they're giving you broadside, even when they're bow in, but you will lose a little bit going against other battleships just because they will, you know, like a bow in, I wouldn't say it's almost useless, but you want to look for better targets even if they're a tad farther away. And of course, we got to be careful of this DD that we know is here, the Leningrad. But yeah, that's why I think the Scharnhorst is so amazing, is because it's unique and it's fun, and that's something that you don't get with a lot of premium ships. Either you get one or the other. Either it's just good but not extremely unique, or it's extremely fun but not obviously too good. Like there's ships like the Le Terrible. I would consider the Terrible not worth it, but it's extremely fun to play. But it's not extremely good. Now there's a perfect example too of basically the only downside of this ship, which is the shell calibers are smaller, and if you get smaller caliber shells, things can bounce your shells that you don't think could, and that was an Omaha bouncing 2 battleship shells. So that is the downside. It will happen, it does happen, and you'll be just fine. But luckily Scharnhorst has given us a nice broadside, and we can get our secondaries into the fight. Again, we don't have the longest range secondaries, so we'd actually be working on this a tad more. We want to get away from that French cruiser if we can. But here we see another situation too of just having that reload. Firing all the time that you can. Using that reload as your advantage. I actually thought I was going to die here. Then obviously you can see this. Now this is actually kind of funny. This doesn't really happen that often, but when it does, it's always a good laugh. And so Leningrad, for some reason, wanted to throw his ship away. He's in my secondary range. Obviously, I made the turn to start shooting at him, and we're going to see what kind of lulls we can get from a Leningrad pushing into a Scharnhorst. I don't know if he didn't know what his other Tier 7 premium counterpart had, but enjoy the torp, little buddy, and thank you for the free kill. So a GG's right here for him, but we're going to send them back to port, and as you saw, I switched over to HE. So having basically a tool, let's say chat, I'm the DD now, having the ability to flex, the ability to move, and the ability, if I would have been in a slower battleship right there, I could have potentially gotten torqued by him because I just wouldn't have been able to round that corner fast enough, and they could have surprised. So having that speed is fantastic. Again, the dispersion on this is going to be very German-esque, so it's going to be very hit and miss. You're going to be kind of all over the place a little bit. That's one thing. You could grab the aiming system mod to help out just a tad with that. I don't feel like it's needed because, and there's a nice little salvo of HE. Again, smaller caliber, the pen won't be there, but it does have a decent fire chance because they are still a battleship shell. Bigger the shell, higher the fire chance. Right now, we're bringing this game back. We killed the DD, kind of gave that ship away. I think the Scharnhorst doesn't have repair, so he's going down. And right now, we can kind of go boss mode for the Scharnhorst because this is when we want to get those guns really into the fight. We have people getting kind of beat up over on A-cap, or C-cap, sorry, but they are trading pretty solidly, so that's good. And now, you're always looking for that position to push in with this ship. We're only half life, which is kind of a bummer, but we do have a decent heal coming up, and still we should have a decent amount of AA left. I run the module. I tend to run the module. I guess you can't get it with this tier, so never mind. But that anytime you can get those modules on a to keep your AA rating up, the survivability for your mounts, that's always really, really good to do on a build like this. Now I do switch out every once in a while. This is just kind of my fun one. I think it's really easy to have a bunch of different builds for German battleships because it's such a good trainer, and there's so many different play styles you can really run. I'm not the biggest fan of running full secondary builds, which some people do. On ships like the Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst, I feel like it's just not quite worth it with the range. When I think of AA builds, I think of ships like they're going to have 10 plus kilometer range on their secondaries. I feel like that 7-ish range isn't quite enough. To me, if it's only going to be useful, an entire build built around basically getting in torpedo range, I don't think it's quite worth it. I would rather do something that would either, one, keep you alive, or two, get you more into the game with the main battery. So either making your main battery worth more and more effective, more accurate, or making something else that could potentially get you killed, like planes. Now the Scharnhorst already has fantastic AA, just straight up stock. Even if you just use the one module, it does have really good AA. It's one of the highest at this tier. But buffing it just makes you a no-fly zone. So you'll kind of see us late game just start to shred this plane. Now, their CV, if you've been watching it, has just been destroying ours. It's a kind of a situation at this tier where you get a lot of CVs that one will know how to strafe, the other one will not. And so he will be able to just control this game. And we might even lose this game late game because of that. But we're a full A Scharnhorst, and he's a Ryujo, so a lot of tier 5 planes potentially. Some of them are tier 6, or most of these planes are tier 6, so he's fully upgraded. We're going to take one as well, and we're just going to start shredding this. So we started this little push with 3 planes left. Reloads in, Fiji turning away, and we'll try to take him out. We're going to get around this if we can. We took the flood, so it's a bummer. And we're just gonna start cleaning up. That is what this ship can do so well, is just clean up kills, which is fantastic because with that high rate of fire, we're already ready for the next salvo. And if any situation you can take adrenaline rush on this kind of ship, that's also fantastic. So 3 kills so far, 8 plane hits, 8 plane kills. Secondary, I mean, just look how balanced the spreadsheet is right here for this ship. You're going to be using everything. You're going to be using HE. You're going to be using AP. You're going to be using your AA, your secondaries, your torpedoes. It's going to look like a weird cruiser board, if you will, when it comes to your post-battle screen. You'll be using all of your tools because they're all extremely good. And here's that manual AA right here. If he's going to get within that 6.5 kilometer range of my AA, he's going to be losing all of his planes. There's a nice little salvo too. And our meal is going to go down, which is a bit of a bummer, but we have some extra AA going out on this as well, and we knocked that cruiser pretty hard. So again, continue to just knock out some planes. This guy just won't be able to continue to do what he's doing. One thing you do need to worry about, and this is something that was definitely highlighted back in the Tier 7 rank season, is how susceptible the Scharnhorst is to really big battleship shells. And you will get beat up. You will for sure. There's a perfect example. So this is a great game. It's not my biggest damage game. It just kind of shows everything that this ship can do, both well and poorly. And this is going to be your weakness. Battleships. Doing big damage against battleships. Now, what you're going to want to do is go towards that. As you see, we just finished up that little bit. The guy smacked them, but we cleaned it up. You want to actually aim a tad higher on the armor belt, because that smaller caliber you have is not going to be able to pen the big armor that a lot of battleships have. You can still get some decent caliber or decent sized salvos, but it's mainly just going to be full pens. You won't see those battleship on battleship citadels that you're probably used to at this time, especially if you've played any type of battleship that does roll a bigger caliber. You will just pretty much, you won't see those citadels. You'll see them against cruisers, obviously. You'll see them all the time against cruisers, because at Tier 7 2, you're going to be playing against a lot of people that are going to be sailing broadside and lightly armored cruisers. But against battleships, you won't see it. So you're going to see I'm not quite aiming waterline. I'm aiming just a tad higher. We're going to go for that superstructure and that upper armor belt. That'll give us the nice kind of salvo. So you'll see a lot of that 3, 4, 5K salvos. Best part is we're at what? Let's see what our reload is right now with AR when we're about a third life right now. So 17 seconds we're sending out salvos. So that's pretty damn good. And if we can just continue to knock them out, you know, the DPM is still there, but that is the weakness. You also see us playing around with ammo types when we get to the CV. And again, if that's going to be the only weakness the ship has, I think that's okay. This is a perfect situation of where I probably should have gone. Now he's broadside, so we're going to continue to keep shooting those salvos. You will chunk them down, but this is the perfect time of when using both ammos is extremely good. If you can use, I'll try to get a little sneaky here and pop it in because he was going just a tad slow. Already 100K though, nothing too crazy. And as you see right here, the enemy battleship, the Colorado shells hit so hard. I got lucky this guy didn't really focus me. As I say that, he focuses me. But again, this is basically the only downside. So using both ammos, we could have probably burnt him down a lot faster. Popping shells out so quickly, but getting that 3-4 we really haven't had, and this is sailing broadside. We haven't seen much higher than like a 6,000 salvo on this guy. I'm gonna try to get the planes out of here and get those down because we'll just lock it in, trying to get that Kraken. But that's the best part about this German style is you don't have to worry about really taking citadels yourself, but big Colorado guns, big Nagato guns, just big guns in general still will absolutely pick on you. So, man, I was trying to get this shell. But the rest of this game is us just kind of derpily shooting at this Colorado. There's the Kraken, as you always like to see it. There's the Citadel as well. A Citadel against a non-cruiser. But again, here you can see it. You'll see it basically the rest of this game. This guy's just going to perfect sail broadside, and we just can't really punish him. But is that going to make me say this ship isn't worth it? Oh, hell no. This ship is so good. It's still one of my most, I don't even know what I was saying. This is my most recommended ship that I could ever give to somebody that's played World War ships. Now, if you are looking for a good trainer, a fun ship, a good ship, and one that can not only make you credits, make you XP, train up any of your German captains, it doesn't even matter. You could throw a destroyer captain in here, and because the ship is so good, you'll still do extremely good. A no captain, no module Scharnhorst will still be insane, still be a blast to play because the ship is just so good straight up. Is the ship overpowered? No, I think it does what it does extremely well, but do I think it's overpowered? Not at all. One thing we even saw too in the ranked tier 7 season is that there's other ships, and the weakness of the ship is the type of armor it has because it will just take big alpha damage. I think we even turn here and we take a 9K salvo. So we've been shredding this guy broadside for 3-4K salvo, and I give him just a tad of an angle and he kills us for almost 9K. So that's the downside of this ship, but if you can get over that, the difference in caliber, and not being able to punish just basically one class in this game and just see the strengths of this, which are almost everything else, and there's some madness right there. So you're seeing the perfect storm of what the Scharnhorst kind of lacks, but again, you've seen the rest of the game where it was just easy peasy lemon squeezy. And so HE probably would have been the best ammo to go here. Learning to use both of those ammo types will get you a lot more success. Obviously, I tend to stick with AP. It's probably a tad too much on this ship, and we try to get the cool 360 no scope on the DD, but nothing you can do. But overall, an extremely fun ship. I love it, and highly recommend it. So an easy ship to pick if you're looking for a good tier 7 premium. Obviously, whenever I recommend premiums, if you have not gotten to that tier or even above that tier, I do not recommend buying like brand new account, going out and buying a Scharnhorst. At least get to that tier, find out one, play the Gneiss now. Do you like that playstyle? They're going to be pretty similar playstyle. One has big guns, less shells. One has more shells but are smaller, which is the Scharnhorst. Play the Gneiss now, see if you like that. Then you know, play even the Bismarck, stuff like that. See if you like that German playstyle, and if you do, then sure, Scharnhorst. But if you're just starting out tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, Don't jump into a tier 7, although this one is awesome. But definitely, especially if there's some kind of deal going on whenever you're watching this video for the Scharnhorst, definitely snag it. It's just a tried and true. It's been so good for so long and continues to be, in my opinion, one of the most fun ships, if not the most fun premium at this year. Also, always up to personal preference. But a nice game. 6 kills there. As you saw, both the strengths, weaknesses. We used everything. 113 main battery hits. That's just normal Scharnhorst. It's almost like a cruiser game. 2 torpedoes, 23 planes, 6 kills, 2 fires, 2 floods, citadels, secondary, spotting, all that goodness. That's what the Scharnhorst does, and that's why I highly recommend the tier 7 German battleship premium ship, the Scharnhorst. You will love it. I highly recommend it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the Scharnhorst. Do you enjoy playing it, and is it one of your favorite premiums? But that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.